working for you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Greer, you're the president of SKNAPE. Now, we live in a globalized world today. We speak about regionalism, networking, all of those things. Now, we have an association here that you lead. What is our relationship, for example, to any other association of engineers within the Caribbean or further afield?
We have contacts and have bonds with all the different engineering associations within the Caribbean, from Jamaica right down to Trinidad. Every country has an engineering association that plays that same integral role in the development of the respective nations, that deals with mentorship for younger engineers, that deal with making recommendations to Parliament, to government, as it pertains to, listen, don't build this bridge over here. In the next 3 years, we deal with an erosion issue just up ahead, so it could affect us in the next 10 years. Your investment gone to naught. On that level, where you giving scientific data to back up whatever you're proposing to whoever you're proposing it to. It don't have to be government all the time. It could be in the private sector. TDC might want to build a new building, 3-story building, and you would offer that sort of advice, and so we have links within the whole Caribbean. So there are workshops or conferences that we are invited to, and our members would attend those conferences. We had something in the cricket stadium, and a gentleman from Jamaica came and did a presentation. We have engineers who also did presentation among us to build a bridge to Nevis.
Yes.
Yes.
And so we have the expertise here.
It's okay.
Yeah, we have engineers here who are capable of managing almost a project on any magnitude or any scale here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay. So is there a Caribbean Association of Engineers? Do you know of any? Caribbean Association of Engineers.
If I could answer, I don't know of a Caribbean Association of Engineers, but I know of associations.
So you will have membership from different countries on that in that association.
Yeah, well, I don't know of it from a Caribbean standpoint, but I can say I know there's a Professional Engineering Association of Canada that encompasses all the provinces. I haven't heard of one of a Caribbean standpoint here. But I think also is another important factor that I wanted to add to my colleague here, is the sense that being a member or being networking within the region, it brings across that standardization and also provide knowledge and information, updated knowledge and information for engineers. What's happening in your area, or how we can solve this, or how we can solve that. Exactly. And at the wider world, which I think is the area that I really like to promote, where we have linkages to the developed countries, whereby we can know exactly what they're doing, what is in the forecast, how you can move forward, for an example, in the solar, right? How we can move forward to, let's say, eliminate the structures for earthquake. We look at Japan. They're setting the you can say the lead in that particular area. A few of our guys went there to say exactly, the stress and the so forth, the movement and that kind of thing, to help us to be in a lot better way, to be secured, and at the same time provide that technology for our local engineering. So I just wanted to add that point.
And equal support in reforming what you're saying, in just on the basis of providing support. Let's say we want to do a bridge to Nevis. There are other countries that has smaller bridges. We could reach out to other engineers who have done it in other areas. I mean, Calvin is here, but Calvin worked all around the world. You heard it for yourself. And so if it's just to provide that technical support, let's say we get notification from the government or from the private sector that we want to engage in this, and there is some discrepancy between us in our point of view on how to go about the actual construction. You know, you reach out to your fellow engineers and get a pool of ideas and suggestions, and you put them together and you come up with a solution, so that when you're speaking to your clients, whoever they may be, you speak with sense and a firm and a strong mind as to the direction in which you want to go. It's, if none about none, maybe this is how it's done overseas. Right. This is how it's done in the Europe. It's done according to codes and standards, and this is the correct way in which you should go.
Let's go. I just wanted to add an area that I'm very, very, I must say, is something that I really want to promote, and that's the leadership aspect in our own region, in our own country. I'm presently pursuing a large project here, which I don't want to disclose at this time. And for whatever reason, you may not have the expertise in a particular engineering discipline or any other area that your local group may not have. What I've seen here on one or two occasions, which, you know, I think they're there to be seen. You bring in a consultant or engineer from overseas, and that person lead the project in the sense that having tradesmen or low level personnel here without even finding out whether we have the local expertise here. And that to me is mind-boggling, right? I believe very strongly that if the project is here in the Federation, we should hire the expertise, bring them in on a consultancy basis, and we have somebody locally understudy that person for a period of time. So we control the project, not the foreign person coming here controlling our projects here. I'm sorry, but I have a serious problem with that. I believe that the time has come when you look at the wide variety and expertise and qualification experience that the engineering fraternity has in the Federation, both St. Kitts and Nevis. I believe it's about time that I will use a consortium, a group of engineering where we can pursue, or at least if we do not have the expertise in a particular area, we can seek it. Just like how, like they say, you know, the brain drain. They take a lot of our expertise and turn them in North America, or Europe, you know. Well, we all know the mighty dollar is it. But the thing I'm trying to say here is that I think we must pay a little more attention to the localized, qualified, experienced persons in pursuing especially large projects.
Mr. Greer, what are your thoughts on what Mr. James has said?
It's extremely important. I have a lot of thoughts on this same thing, because you see, it at the end of the day, we become liabilities instead of being assets.
That's correct. Now, that's correct.
If, let's say, we have a project here to move these pair of shades from here to there, and if a particular person from a particular country, I don't want to call any country's name, have to come to St. Kitts every time and do it. Let's say they want to perform the same task in Antigua, or let's say they even want to do it in Nevis. When I submit my bid to do it, what am I going to say? Well, I'm interested in doing that. I have nothing to prove that I successfully did it, or I participated in it, or I had any sort of involvement in it. I have no experience. So at that point in time, I am a liability. I'm not an asset. And at some point in time, in the private or public sector, we're going to have to start taking that risk on with our locals. It must start at some point in time, because we would, if we are not given the opportunity to do it here in St. Kitts, we would never, ever, ever be given the opportunity to do it outside of St. Kitts. When I came to this association first, I asked, Peter Jenkins was the then president, I asked him, do you know of any occasion where a local company, a local engineering group got a job outside of St. Kitts and Nevis and took 3 locals outside of St. Kitts and Nevis to perform anything, consultancy, anything? Up to now, I waited an answer. We are not afforded those opportunities. Those other countries in the region perform a lot of nepotism and bias which I applaud and congratulate, because we need to start doing the same thing. We need to start squaring out parts of this thing and say, look, this is for our locals. Unless we start doing that, then we're going to always be a secret engineering society, a secret engineering this, a secret engineering that.
Yeah.
And that's why if you look at most of the engineers in St. Kitts, they either work for a company or work for the government, because there is no opportunities outside of those two entities. You can't really make it on your own as an engineer.
What do you mean by nepotism?
You would have to be able to say, this is for my people.
That's not nepotism, though. Nepotism is basically when you are gainfully
But then I
involving your family.
Okay.
It
No
is
problem.
specific
Okay,
to
so
family.
Let me say some bias. We need to put some bias where we say, look, this I want to square it away for my family, for my people. That project that is coming on the stream, I want to involve my engineers, my contractors, my architects, my local tradesmen, everybody, because you have a big project. The architects would be able to perform the architectural duties. The engineers would be able to perform their engineering duties. The contractors, who would be subcontracted, would be able to find work. Even the persons who sell food, at the end of the day, more telephone bills will be paid, more food will be bought from the grocery stores. You could probably go online a bit longer, more on the weekends. So it spreads around and it trickles down in the economy.
So more nationalism.
Exactly.
Basically, you're speaking about. You see, we have had, for a very long time, in the Caribbean, a mentality that what comes from outside is better.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
Still.
And we still have that mentality,
Yes.
to a certain
And it's
extent.
aspect through life, through the whole.
And of course, in colonial times and so on,
Yes.
when we were not as developed,
That's correct.
Sir Arthur Lewis, and this has its disadvantages, and I always say that, I mean, it was a great concept at the time, and it is still with us today. He spoke about industrialization by invitation. Have you ever heard about that?
I haven't.
And basically, what he meant is that you're bringing the large companies,
That's correct.
you're bringing the multinational companies, the multinationals. And of course, one of the negative things that brought with it, you see, you bring those people in, those companies in, and somehow you say that you're developing the countries and so on, because you're getting multinationals in and they're supposed to train your people and all that sort of a thing. But it hardly ever worked.
It doesn't work.
What happened is that they brought these companies in, and they also brought the experts in, and they brought the higher management in. Higher management. And so therefore, at the lower end, you had people washing dishes, and people selling chicken, and people doing the housekeeping in the hotels and so on.
Yeah.
But the management positions were filled by people from outside.
I've seen
And so
situations-
therefore, we speak about sending our people to train, and then they can come back and be the managers. They can come back and offer advice. They can come back and, have consultative services and all of that. So, and to be involved in their country, not at the bottom of the ladder.
That's right.
Exactly.
But in top management. And that is what, and that was, for me, that was, when I view it, that was one of the disadvantages of Sir Arthur Lewis's, thesis of industrialization by invitation.
Yes.
And then sometimes what you have is that these multinationals, of course, when they're no longer making any profit, they just pack
Pick
up
up and gone.
and they go,
Yeah.
and then you leave a lot of people out of work, and the people who are out of work sometimes can't even move on to something else because
Exactly.
they were never trained. They remained at one level within these multinationals. They never moved up to middle management
That's right.
or to top management. They stayed at the bottom.
Because there was never a transition process in place. You fit this profile and you remain there. And because the profit is at the top area of the scale, then they put the persons to fill those positions. But the laborer aspect of it was never meant to transition into the management. You just were meant to just be laborers and dishwashers and masons and carpenter or whatever. And you find that a lot happening here where contracts would be given and the general contractor would work with all of his subcontractors. I've seen projects here in St. Kitts where everybody on the project were foreigners. Well, there are a lot of projects right now, active projects, where everybody working on the projects are foreigners. In other countries, that doesn't work like that. There are laws stipulating how you go about procuring your contracts, labor force, everybody. It has to be a certain percentage of your labor force. A certain amount of your contract must be given out to locals.
Even in the region.
Yes, Mr. James, you were going to say
Region.
something?
Well, I just wanted to sort of follow up with what my colleague Nubian just said, in the sense that I strongly believe that new companies should have what I refer to as a form of vision for progression of the employees with ambition within the respective organization. In other words, you come in as a janitor and you decide to go to night school and decide to take some courses and you have internal courses built in the organization. There should be opportunities for that person who come in at the bottom of the ladder to move up.
Right.
And I don't believe that is emphasized enough in the construction or the so-called development of industry, particularly in our region. That is why I come back again in my project that I'm putting. That is an integral part, whereby continuous courses and opportunities and linkages are made for the employees to progress. When they come in, there's an opportunity for you to learn, an opportunity for you to get trained, for you to go on short courses, and for you to move up within the structure of the organization.
Okay.
That
You
is a
are-
strong point.
You are mentioning some very interesting points in terms of, the engineers who are in the federation. And you, Mr. Greer, mentioned that most of them, they have difficulty getting work in the private sector. Most of them, you said, are absorbed in the public sector.
Correct.
And the public sector, as I outlined earlier, is the one where you have a lot of capital projects, infrastructural projects taking place. How do you think more engineers can get involved in the private sector? Or let me put the question another way. How do you think that the private sector can engage more engineers? Because let's face it, the public sector cannot offer a job for everyone.
Sure.
And in fact, we should have a bigger public sector than private sector. And because you want to grow the private sector, isn't that so?
Exactly.
You want to grow the private sector.
Exactly. No,
No.
to me, what should happen is essentially we should do like what Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados. I'm just looking within the region. We should copycat what they're doing. Now, if we could provide training in procurement and sending out bids regionally. So the bigger, let's say you're looking at a construction, engineering company that's involved in construction, and we could get him, that company, with his guys to start bidding regionally. So he goes to Antigua and do a project for 2 years, like the same way Jamaicans and other persons come to St. Kitts and do projects for a number of years. It's okay. There is CSME. Everybody could move freely, and it's okay. Now the problem comes where it's not reciprocative, where they don't come, they come in and we can't go. I've had that experience already.
But why you can't go?
I'll get to that. Now, most of their projects are done locally by their people. But the issue is now is if we could get our persons involved in other projects overseas, then it leaves a small vacuum here in St. Kitts. Now, who's going to do those jobs? And the engineers who are in the public sector or working for a company could see that vacuum, then he could transition into an entrepreneur and pull 2 or 3 other engineers with him and hire 15 workers to work alongside him. So you're filling that gap, and the more persons we could get traveling overseas regionally and probably internationally, bidding on projects from CDB or other international organization, you know. And a lot of times what happens is, me and Calvin had that same conversation, is that we would bid on 1 million CDB projects and you're not successful. We don't even know why we weren't successful. We bid on government projects and we were not successful. We don't even know why, because nobody cared to offer that explanation. So the next time you bid the same way and you're not successful meeting the criterias for those projects. Sometimes you need financial backing, you need to have 2-3 engineers, and it's strenuous, and so you don't see being comfortable working for a TDC or Ramsey Hospital or whosoever or the government. You don't see the opportunities out there because the few that out there getting a very, very hard time. So why put yourself out there and take that sort of risk? And you have obligations, you have your family, other things to deal with. So you don't see it. So to me, what we should start doing is making sure we provide the opportunities for the local entrepreneurs, the local company, the local engineers to start building up that resume and that repertoire. And because if you don't have it, you won't survive regionally. If you're not surviving locally, you won't survive regionally. And because there's free movement, the other guy who coming in would always have a CV as long from here to Nevis, and you basically would be a liability towards the project. So that's how we have to approach it, and it must be done drastically. Otherwise, we would never ever start to garner the type of respect that we need and provide opportunities for young entrepreneurs coming out of school. Because look at it technically, I would bid on a project that a guy coming out of college, CFBC, is bidding on the same way. An electrical installation job, because all the other jobs like Port Sante, the pair, it's foreigners down there. So I'm guessing have those contracts. You look at other different projects, it's foreigners who basically engage in all of those stuff, and we are not exposed to those type of opportunities. You hear about them when the project is groundbreaking, and at that point in time, the project has already been parceled out to persons.
Let me just add something that I think is very pertinent. And what Nubian said there, it comes in different forms, in the sense of the keyword experience in the particular trade. When I went to Canada, right, you apply for a job, they said, well, you got no Canadian experience, so we can't employ you. Now, in most cases, when your application or your bid is not approved, they never tell you why. Unless you're a bit assertive and you inquire, and they might give you a general sense of what's happening. If you're being persistent, you'll be able to know the reason why your bid was unsuccessful. Or, for an example, interviewing your application for employment. But that is key, because the next job, you'll know, boy, I did something wrong here. I could correct it or improve on it. So I say that to say that in order for the localized employment to gain experience, they need to be given the opportunity. So if you're bidding for a job in Trinidad or Jamaica or wherever it is, you could say, look, I work on a bridge in St. Kitts, so I have an experience to build your bridge. But if you're applying for a bridge in Jamaica and you never work on a bridge because you never get the opportunity to build a pier or a bridge or a hotel or whatever it is, they're going to say you got no experience, you're a small island. Right? We're small in population, but a number of us have done well internationally. If you got to really take a survey of the professionals in my field only and beyond, abroad, you can see Kitchens and Division has done extremely well around the world. I was surprised when I went to South Africa and I run into Dr. Christmas. He's out there for years, and others. You know, you go to Frankfurt, you run into Kitchens all over the world. So what I'm saying is that these things are so important for us to be given the opportunity. And sometimes it's a challenge for the company, you know, because any company is bringing it's a cost, it's an overhead. But everything boils down to the attitude, the overall work ethic, the work attitude that is being given from the initial stage. When you set up the organization, it's very important to have that, I will say, you'll be provided with these are the work ethics of the organization. These are the expectations.
Yes.
And even if you look at students, when they finish studying, you find
that could be
a lot
integrated
of
in the
them
program.
stay out there because coming back now,
Yeah.
there is, am I going to work for the government in public works or Ministry of Education or here or there, or I could find a better opportunity out there. You know, to me, if we provided more avenues for entrepreneurship or engagement in more meaningful projects, then you could get them to come back and engage in that. Start building up the CV, start building up the confidence, start building up the knowledge from networking within the engineering community, you know. So that's also
working for you.